Well, welcome everybody to our Agile Austin coaching meetup in this wonderful hot month of July. Just to kind of give you all a little bit intro before we get to our main event. Our mission, we are a nonprofit, and so just want to share a little bit about our mission, just really to make sure that we're collaborating and sharing these Agile values, principles, and practices. And if you are interested in learning more about the organization, we have our newly elected 2022-23 board members. So these are great people to reach out to, learn a little bit more about what we do at Agile Austin, especially since I know we've got folks from all over the country and the world. So if you're interested, and even if you're not in Austin, we love having people come and participate. And we definitely want to give a big thank you to our sponsors who make a lot of our events happen, both online and in person, hopefully one day, as we've been talking about. So just a big thank you to them and making all this possible. And if you are interested in becoming a sponsor or a member, you can reach out to agileaustin.org. I'll quickly kind of go over on some of the membership. It's only $35, not a lot of money, where you get access to our online portal, being able to vote on the board. And then we also have some special events and training discounts. And as I mentioned earlier, you're on the coaching SIG and our coaching meetup, but we do have a lot of other ones. If you are interested in some other topics, I myself have attended the leaders one, which I always enjoy, but we have some for those who are interested in Scrum Master. We have a great book club that has a lot of different books that they dive into, Lean Kanban, Agile at Scale, and then our monthly speaker series. So you can find all of these on meetup.com/AgileAustin if you want to join some of the other ones in addition to our coaching. And for those who may be interested in volunteering, because as we mentioned, it's a nonprofit, so we're all volunteers here. We have a couple new opportunities, our Director of Membership and our Director of Volunteers. So again, reach out to contact@agileaustin.org. And now I'll officially introduce myself, since I know we probably have a lot of new folks here. So my name is Lonnie Dame, and I am here along with Sid Markle as your coaching SIG hosts. And so we have this wonderful opportunity to really bring speakers in from everywhere to help us build our coaching skills. If this is your first time, or if you've been multiple times, just a reminder, we usually meet the first Monday of every month. Currently all on Zoom. This month, obviously because of 4th of July, it's a little bit different, but usually you'll find us here on that first Monday of every month. And we want to, before we get to our main speaker, call out and invite you all to our future events as well. So next month, we're going to have Nadia Ichinomaya, and she will speak to us about Sony's servant leadership journey. And this is going to be great. This was a talk that she gave at the Business Agility Conference, which I heard was amazing. So I'm super excited to be able to hear from her directly. And then in September, we have Jill Greenbaum, who is going to talk about visuals and coaching conversations. Another amazing speaker. I've learned some vocabulary that I incorporate into my coaching, so I'm super excited to have her share. And then in October, we will have a panel who's going to talk about coaching the person, not the problem. So you can visit our meetup where we'll have these posted to sign up. And now I want to hand it over to Erin Randall, who's going to introduce you all to our speaker today.
Hi, everyone. So I get the lucky and fortunate task of introducing you to Bob Galen. He's going to be tonight's speaker. And tonight's topic is that everyone is an Agile coach. And you can read the comments there and the small spiel at the left, which will really tell you kind of about Bob, in his role. But I would also like to call out Bob as the person. He is perhaps one of the most generous and outgoing Agilists that we are fortunate to have in our community. He is one of those few people that really not only lives the values that Agile teaches, but he also shares those with others, and he comes forward and he really inspires so many people in the community. I was, talking with a person just late last week who had worked with Bob previously, and he was just dumbfounded by the fact that Bob was so generous and open with his time and his knowledge, and honestly wanted the best for this organization, but more importantly for that individual. So to run into that and be able to have that kind of person want to come forward and speak is really just a testimony to the kind of human he is. And so with that, I really am thrilled to welcome Bob Galen to the Agile Austin Coaching Meetup. So thank
Oh,
you, Bob.
thank you, Erin. That was, I'm like, I'm almost like tearing up here a little bit. That was very
The
thoughtful.
introvert in
Thank you.
you is running for the hills.
And the introvert for me is already in the hills and
Yeah.
looking. Let me share my screen, everyone. I just want to. I have some slides that I want to share, and then we're gonna get a chance to do a little bit of collaborative work as well. So let me share that. Okay. So welcome. So everyone is or can be an Agile coach. I recently, and I want to thank Sid and Lonnie and Erin for inviting me. I've been really excited about this because I know Agile Austin has such a wonderful community there. I admire the community there from afar. I've spoken at Agile, Keep Austin Agile or Agile Austin or something. I've spoken there a few times, and it's just a really nice Agile community. So when I think Erin reached out to me, I was excited to do it. So thank you all for having me. In January, I published a book that has I don't know if it's controversial, but a title that not everyone resonates with. It's called Extraordinarily Badass Agile Coaching. And I get positive comments and negative comments. So if you don't like the B word, you can call it well-rounded. When I was torn, my replacement term for the title before I published it was, oh, I could replace badass with well-rounded. And that would be an homage to the wheel, the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel, which I anchor the book on. But it just well-rounded didn't have the same impact to me. So I look at Agile coaching as being something that the world needs more of, or coaching and Agile coaching, and not only needs more of it, but excellence, like goodness, greatness, and aspiring to be better over time. So that's what was the genesis of the book a little bit, and that leads into this talk. Now, with anything, when you hit code freeze on a book and you hit release, one of the things that I did, I reflect a lot. One of my superpowers, for good or bad, is I'm a reflection artist. I reflect on everything. And I reflected immediately on the book, and I reflected on the title, and it's like, oh, you know what? It says Badass Agile Coaching. And I'm like, but I think coaching, Agile coaching, or as a skill, as a competency, could be useful for everyone. Does that make sense to folks? I'm looking for some, right? It's like leaders and managers. If you've ever worked with leaders and managers, I'm like, boy, if there's ever a group, I'm kidding a little bit, but if there's ever a group that could use some coaching skills and chops, it's leaders, product owners in our Agile space. I think, oh man, they could really leverage some coaching chops, some coaching skills. And so I was lamenting. I'm like, oh, it was narrow. I may have narrowed it in the title, and that wasn't my intention. So this is a corrective action sort of set of talks to hopefully make it. I'm not trying to sell books. I'm trying to sell everyone on Agile coaching skills. I'm not trying to change your title. Like whatever's on your business card will stay on your business card, but change the sort of the view of coaching skills. So we're going to talk about the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. We'll talk about mindset a little bit. So consider this a primer, a basic primer for some of you. Now there's a lot of experienced coaches here, so please, I hope I don't bore you. I think maybe you'll pick up something here and there that might be useful to you. I want to talk about the coaching conversation, and I want to have a bit of collaborative practice. I have some scenarios at the end, and then we'll close. So this is what I was talking about. When I say coach and coaching, it's a broad term. And it's less about title or role or org chart role, and it's more about competencies and skills, and can you coach? And in fact, one of our scenarios is a team member. I think team members would benefit from having coaching competencies or growing themselves in that area and make themselves a better team member and make their teams better. So it's virtually anyone. So the book was published in, and I'm going to skip over a lot of the text. I know it's dense. In January 26th, 7th, so in the end of January. So it's coming up on the 6-month anniversary, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback from people, which blessed me. I didn't know what was going to happen when I threw it out there. Aaron and I were talking earlier about sometimes when you're an author or you publish things in the Agile community, I think of it as like you're releasing little birds out, and you never know, like, will it get shot down? Not that sounds very dramatic, but will it fly? Will it not fly? Will it get hounded by the hawks? You just don't know it, or will anyone even care? So the feedback has been good. I want to use this. I want to use this. Thank you, Aaron. I want to use this handout or this. There's a wonderful, in a nutshell, of Agile coaching that's done by Dandy People, and this is a free handout. They do a bunch of them, which is really a wonderful resource in our community. Product ownership, Scrum Mastery. This happens to be the coaching one, and I want to just talk about the Agile Coaching Competency Framework here. And this surfaced around 2009-10, Lisa Atkins, Michael Spade. They surfaced it in Lisa's book. It was the Agile Coaching Institute. I think IC Agile has sort of latched onto this in some of their courses. It was a model. It was a framework for what does Agile coaching look like. There were in my view, there was 4 primary stances. I'm going to use the term stance or positions in the model. Teaching and mentoring were primary stances for an Agile coach. They're pretty self-explanatory. If I'm coaching a client, and I'm going to use the term client for any individual or a group. Everyone with me? So when I say client, it could be an individual, it could be a team, could be a group of leaders. It could be any of those. But you could be teaching a client and or mentoring a client. So, and you're adopting those stances based on what the client needs, how they need you to show up. The other 2 stances, facilitation is relatively well known in our space, in the Agile space. Facilitating. I always use dot voting as a facilitation technique, and everyone's head usually nods when I say something like that. So a facilitation technique, different facilitation techniques are part of that. Facilitating meetings, facilitating discussions, facilitating alignment sessions, virtually anything. And then professional coaching, to me, is this wonderful, the profession, ICF, professional coaching. I liken it to asking questions. So not telling a client, not solving their problems, but helping them discover their journey, if that makes sense, by asking questions, by helping them figure out where they want to go. And as a coach, you sort of sense, I think in terms of sense and respond, you sense what the client needs, you form an agenda, and then you might dance. I want you all to think about this notion of dancing with your client. Everyone with me? Clearly I'm not a ballroom dancer. If you could see me from the shoulders down, I'm not really built for ballroom dancing. But in my mind, I can imagine what it looks like. So you're dancing depending on the dialogue with the client and the client's needs and what you're sensing and responding. You're dancing with your client and across those stances. So a very good stance to enter a coaching conversation is professional coaching and asking some questions. But depending on what you're discovering, you may then move to teaching and move to mentoring. So think about this notion of dancing across the stances. Now, in the base, our technical mastery, transformation mastery, and business mastery, to me, those are tactical skill sets related to the Agile ecosystem. And usually a coach isn't equally skilled in all of those areas. You might be technically leaning into technical mastery and coaching, or transformation, change management coaching, or enterprise level coaching. And then at the top of the framework is Agile Lean Chops. Think in terms of Agile Lean Chops and scalability. So it was a wonderful model for how do I dance with the clients and what skills do I need to bring to the table. And then to the right of it has another stance, what I think of as a coaching stance model. I actually use this one when I'm planning my coaching, if that makes sense. So to me, when I'm planning a coaching conversation, and I'm thinking about, the last coaching conversation and the next one and how I need to show up with the client, I just generally like this 9 stance model to land me on how am I going to enter, what might I expect, and where might I dance to? But I can change it. It just lands me on planning, how do I serve my client? How can I serve that client, that from a mindset perspective? And then there's some things at the bottom. Shuhari talks about maturity and things like that. So again, I wanted to use this to introduce the Agile Coaching Competency Framework. Now, moving from that, there's another framework that's emerging within the last few years called the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. It's an effort from the community. It started with some Scrum Alliance coaching retreats, I think in Europe around 2015, 16. A group of coaches started talking about how do we raise the bar? Is there anything missing in what I call the X-Wing framework? Is there some things that we need to talk about? And one of the things that Lisa's framework didn't do was it didn't sort of give language around how do I grow? What are different competency levels within each of those stances? And the growth wheel tries to do a good job of that. So it talks about stances and competencies. It includes professional coaching, but it's not all professional coaching. That's I think one of the confusing points sometimes is if I'm a professional coach, what do I do? And if I'm an agile coach, what do I do? And I think of agile coaching as being a superset of professional coaching. That doesn't mean it's better or less than. It includes that as a stance. And we might dance a bit more as an agile coach, depending on the client's needs. There's a wonderful link there called What is Agile Coaching? And you can get more information there. And the Scrum Alliance has some resources as well. The history is here. I'm going to skip over it. Although I think that blog post that I mentioned there, I was talking once. I wrote a blog, and I was lamenting that I see a lot of agile coaches, and they stay in professional coaching stance almost as their primary stance, even if it's not serving the client. It's a silly metaphor sometimes. If the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like, and this is a silly metaphor, but it makes the point, everything looks like a nail. And I was getting frustrated for the clients that were suffering with this coaching, but also for the coaches. I was like, gosh, I wish they would be better rounded in service to their client, that needing to extend their skills to be able to dance a little bit more. So I wrote this blog post to inspire some community activity to evolve the wheel and to create some well-roundedness. Not that I did it myself, but it was really this notion of, I think we need to have a variety of skills, not all, and we don't have to be equally adept at each one, but what does a well-rounded agile coach look like? And how do you develop that well-roundedness over time? So there's a genesis there that aligns with the wheel. One of the things that I love about the wheel, and again, I'm not saying the X-Wing model was bad. It's wonderful. It's more, what does it augment? And one of the differences was the self-mastery, the hub of the wheel. And I love this. And the hub of the wheel says, if you're thinking of coaching, you need to start with yourself. Has anyone ever heard that notion that in order to be a leader, you need to be a good follower? I was in the Army, and one of the things that I learned in the Army was, like I went into the Army, I was right out of high school, and I jumped into the Army, and I'm like, I'm going to be a leader. I'm going to be, I'm going to be like Errol Flynn or something, or John Wayne, and I'm going to lead the platoon into whatever. And I wasn't given any opportunity to do that. And the opportunities were, be a good follower, learn what it takes to be a good follower first. And then as you master that, you emerge to be a leader. But the two are complementary. And I think that's the way I wish more coaches would look at, instead of outwardly coaching, the first step to becoming an agile coach or a professional coach would be, how coachable are you? Like, one question is, do you have a coach? Right? And if the answer is no, right, exactly. And Aaron's holding up 2 fingers. I know. And you change them over time, depending on what your growth journey looks like, right? And how you're evolving yourself. And do you, and it's not just coach, do you have a coach, and are you coaching? I do a lot of pro bono coaching, and I'm doing it to sharpen my saw. Do you mentor, and do you have a mentor? And it helps. It's that self mastery. So there's an emphasis in the wheel of inside out agile coaching, and I love that emphasis. And the things in there are ethics. Some of the things to think about: self-awareness, evolving your self-awareness, your mindfulness, systems awareness, continuous learning and growth. One of the things I think about here is walking our talk. I see so many agile coaches that we tell a client. I'll use my favorite example is whip limits. We'll coach a client and I'll say, Sid, you have excessive whip, right? Stop it. That's insane. It's lean, it's wasteful. Sid, you have 10 things in progress. You need to reduce it to 3, or I ask questions so Sid explores her whip limit. But then when Sid looks at me, I have 18 balls in play. And she's like, Bob, you're not modeling, you're not walking your talk. And I think as agile coaches, that can affect our relationship with the client. Like our behavior, our clients not only care about the words or the magic, sort of the magic coaching tools we have, but are we walking our talk? Are our behaviors aligning with the principles that we're espousing? It's incredibly important. So humility, coachability, presence are that self-mastery thing. I'm really emphasizing that because it's important, independent of your model. Start from the inside out. The other thing that the wheel did is it added a few stances. So please don't be offended. It just added a couple. One, it took training and mentoring and put them together into guided learning. But I don't think it changed the view of those two stances, right? It's just it combined them from a competency perspective. You can still, and it's not blended. I'm still training and mentoring, but put them together. Coaching is still there, professional coaching, the same way that Lisa looked at it. Facilitating is there, but it added two that I think, plus that merge, it added advising or consulting, and it added leading. And consulting is that providing advice. One of the things I noticed with many coaches is they're very reluctant to provide advice. I do a lot of leadership coaching, and I've talked to leaders and they're like, are you one of those coaches that ask 1,000 questions? Right? And are you going to help me, or are you just going to ask questions? And if you're just going to ask questions, my head's going to explode, because the last 3 coaches have just done that and they haven't helped me. Right. The client may have some issues, but they have a point and they haven't been served, if that makes sense to folks. And sometimes the right stance is to actually provide some advice and to give yourself the permission to dance into advice. Now, you have to be cautious about that, because you can overdo it and you can take too much ownership from the client. But it's not a bad thing. So that stance gives us permission that if the agenda is looking for it, and if it's in service to the client, if dancing into advising or consulting works, then it's in the wheel, it's in the competency set. The other stance is leading or leadership. And this is that role model. Do any of you realize, I call it coaching without coaching. If I walk into a building, people are paying attention to me. If I don't open my mouth, they'll watch how I behave, how I show up, my presence, right? If I show up with curiosity, that has an influence on the system. I'm leading by example. Does that resonate with? I hope that resonates with folks. And that's what this leadership stance. And the leadership stance, I don't know if the wheel does a good enough job of this, but it connects it to self-mastery, like leading by example, that leadership, and connecting it to presence. It's I actually think my most powerful stance nowadays, in some situations, but in quite a few, is leading or leading by example. And it's actually weird for me, because I talk less, and you can tell that I like to talk. And I'm like, my God, I'm getting paid for just being there. What's up with that? I mean, that's sort of I don't know, but it's working because I'm showing. So another way of leading by example is showing, demonstrating softly, How do I show up? So those are the additional stances. It still has Agile Lean Practitioner, serving and transforming. So I think there's resonance there. Another area that the wheel extends the X-wing model that I really love is like, what does good look like? And it was never intended, but the wheel talks about for every slice, for every stance, for every competence, it talks about 5 levels of competency for every stance. And it gives you, not in a dictatorial way, but it tries to provide guidance. Oh, what does a facilitation beginner look like? And what would I develop in order to become an advanced beginner? What would I do? What would I have to develop in my skill set or learn in order to grow in that area? Does that make sense to everyone? So, and it gives us some guidance. So it's not intended to grade you. It's not intended to compare people. It's intended to actually provide the intent of in the self-mastery is to create a coaching growth journey map from my point of view, and to use the wheel as a place to say, these are some areas where I want to grow, and this is what it would look like, and these are classes or something that I could take to grow in that area. The other thing I like to emphasize on this slide is the intention is not to grow equally or to grow in all areas, or another, and this is Bob explaining the wheel, so this is my interpretation. The goal is not for you to become a catalyst in every stance. Does that make sense to everyone? Like, for example, I'm going to be vulnerable. I don't like facilitation so much. I can facilitate, but it's not my favorite stance. I don't jump out of bed in the morning and say, I'm going to facilitate something today and I'm excited. Now, I work with coaches who are like that with facilitation, and they're great at it. And it's like, so Sid, exactly, get excited. And that's wonderful. So Sid, you might grow to become a catalyst in facilitation, and that's wonderful. It aligns with your passion. It aligns with where you're at with your clients. It aligns with what the clients need from you and how you need to show up. That's cool. One of the areas that I really want to grow myself is professional coaching. I've been working hard on the professional coaching. It's an area that I'm excited about. It's an area of weakness for me. It's an area where I think it helps my clients. It assists my clients. It makes me a better, like a softer coach, a more empowering coach. And that's an area working for me. So I'm trying to grow that. So it's okay to starve some things, is my point. I don't know if the best strategy is to grow everywhere. I think you want to look at your self-mastery and look inside yourself and figure out what is my job? What is my role? What do my clients need? What am I passionate about? Where are my skill sets? And then put your journey map together for yourself. And don't worry about starving or amplifying. It's okay, as long as you're growing as a coach, I think. There's that wonderful model I wanted to bring up. It's a planning tool. I just wanted to land it. I did share the materials with everyone. You might want to download it for later on if you want to reference some of these sort of frameworks, because we're going to talk about some scenarios and they might be useful later. One thing I want to share with everyone, as part of writing the book, I reached out. Mark Summers was a co-author of mine, and he wrote some wonderful, like, real world scenarios in the book in 3 chapters. And he was one of the original facilitators of the wheel, the coaching programs that created the wheel. And he and I talked, and we said, wouldn't it be great if we could partner with someone to create an assessment tool that aligned with the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel? So we reached out to Comparative Agility, which has some tools, some assessment tools, and we didn't want to create an assessment. We wanted to create a private assessment with non-shared data, so private data. And what we did is that we created an Agile Coaching Growth Wheel, or an Agile Coaching PI assessment, or a personal improvement assessment. So it's free. It's hosted by Comparative Agility. You can go there and assess yourself based on all of the wheels. It'll give you a nice, well-rounded assessment. And then that's one thing. But then what Mark and I did, we spent more time putting learning resources into the tool. So we probably spent weeks trying to figure out what were effective books and videos and things to inject there, in webinars. So it's pretty rich if you want to create your own learning journey. And that's why I shared the link there. I want to stop talking about the wheel and I want to talk about coaching mindset a little bit. Okay, so the wheel is independent of your title or you're an agile. It's a nice model to think about what is agile coaching, what is coaching. Think about dancing, stances, things like that. Now let's talk about mindset a little bit. I have these prime directives in mind that are useful for me. I like the first one for me, do no, because sometimes I'll do harm. I'm well-intentioned, but bless my little heart, I do make mistakes. So do no harm. One of the ones that I'm really activating is assuming positive intent, particularly with my biases, particularly when I'm coaching leaders. I've been scarred by leaders historically. I've been beaten up by CEOs. I've been ostracized. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding, but I've got baggage when it comes to leaders, and I love coaching leaders. But I have to be wary of my baggage, of my biases. So assuming positive intent helps me. Holding the client as capable, no matter what stance you're in, even if you're in advising stance. Don't overly advise. Don't overly facilitate. Right? Hold that client as sort of capable of figuring things out. Hold the client. It's not so it's not your agenda as a coach. How many of you have ever met a client and coached a client and you held your agenda over the client's agenda? Come on, anyone, right? It's like you were trying, I wanted to coach them. Very often this happens in companies because you're a coach, you're being paid to coach. And a leader might, I need you to fix this. I need you to solve this. I need you to transform the organization. So you have those kind of charters, not the client charter, but external pressure to do that. Help them discover their way, discovery. I actually think of it as exploration sometimes. Like a metaphor that's useful for me is we're like exploring a path together. And then have the courage to be patient and help your clients focus on outcomes. So just some sort of prime directives. I want to come back to self-mastery. Another key is you showing up. What are you, not the external act of coaching, but how are you showing up? Are you showing up with mindfulness? Are you showing up with emotional intelligence? Are you aware of the emotional field? Are you listening on all wavelengths to your client? I have attended ORS training, and one of the things that ORS really sharpened for me is the emotional field, and just what I think of as personally as my radar of sensing my client, sensing and responding. And a small part of sensing is the words. A large part of sensing is what's going on in our ecosystem, what's going on in the emotional field, what's going on in the universe around us, what's going on inside of me versus what's going on inside of the client, right? The system and the individuals in the system. So just increasing my awareness so I can be more present, I can be more effective. This is what I talked before. Meet your client where they are, not where you want them to be. It's not about what you want. It's about where they are. Now, I think it's fair if you're an internal coach and you're trying to move an organization, you can maybe share some of the directives that you have and the why you're there as part of chartering the coaching agreement and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's not about your agenda. It's about meeting the client where they are and forming and crafting their agenda and their vision and their goals, and then helping them walk that path. Another part of it is having the courage is to give them truth. I always think about, what is it, A Few Good Men, and Jack Nicholson with the, you can't handle the truth. Well, your clients, maybe not brutal truth, but maybe not Jack Nicholsonian truth, but having the courage to share the truth.
Hey, Shane, it's Cece.
With your client.
I've got a blue.
Hey, Cece, you're not on mute,
Okay,
but I think you are now.
cool. No worries. Another thing that I've learned over time that I amplified in the book, but I'm amplifying myself and as part of self-mastery, is part of meet people where they are is empathy, right? Is having empathy for, like, walking in the shoes. I want to encourage all of you, whether you like it or not, or whether you think that you've done it or not, I want you to look at the world through your client's eyes before you coach them. So if you're coaching leaders, one of the things that I try to do, and I've held senior leadership roles, but I try to join board meetings. I try to understand the pressure that leaders are on. I try to understand their context, their personal context, their personal pressure, their personal fears. So I literally position myself, I mentally position myself to be walking with them, behind them, and observing and living in their context for a while, maybe following them around, not in a lurking way, but just following them around so I can see their context and better understand with empathy, where are they coming from? And then I flip myself and it's like, now I have that perspective. I think there's too little empathy, not enough empathy in the coaching world, in a 360-degree way, but particularly with leaders. I wish more Agile coaches really walked in the shoes of leaders and really understand them as part of meeting them where they are. It's not really understand. And that, don't give me that question, oh, what keeps you up at night? And then you get an answer. I mean, that's okay, but I'm talking about a deep empathetic drive, and that metaphor of walking in their shoes. In fact, don't coach me if you haven't walked in my shoes a little bit, right? I think it's presumptuous for us to sometimes is to, particularly from an Agile coaching point of view, if we don't have any context, like look at the developers. I'm coaching a development team, but you don't have to have been a developer, but follow the team around for a while. Look at the pressure, look at the ambiguity in the use cases. Look at how hard it is to code in the environment or whatever. Just try to understand that before you start coaching folks. Biases. I have a little practice that I do before I enter a coaching. I call it the Bob Bag activity. I have, depending on how much bias I know, I hold up these 2 virtual bags. I will do it when I'm going on site in coaching. I'll outside of the room or outside of the building, I'll close my eyes and I'll hold up my bags and I'll fill it with as much bias, as much of my baggage, and I'll fill them up and then I'll drop them. I do it when I'm virtually coaching and I do it when on site. Some people have caught me, occasionally a client has caught me and said, Bob, what the hell are you doing? Like, I thought you were, I thought you were zoned out there. What do you do? But I'm trying to, I can't get rid of all of my baggage, but I try to be cognizant of, there's this notion of cleaning me out before I coach. Does that resonate with anyone? Cleaning out my biases before I coach. And I found that it doesn't clean me up perfectly, but it really helps me enter and be present with the client. This is what I was talking about, walking your talk. Are you walking the Agile principles? Are you appreciating folks? We talk about the 5 Scrum values. Remember, everyone, courage. Courage is one of those. There's other values. Are you walking courageously? Are you having courageous coaching conversations with leaders? Are you taking your own risks? You know, I see quite a few coaches, they talk about teams. Oh, you should have a crucial conversation with your leader. Is the coach having a crucial conversation with the leader? Are they applying radical candor, etc.? Are they truth-telling? Are they in service? Are they walking their coaching ethics? So again, it's that walking your talk. Principles of behavior. So words are cheap, in my view, coaches, right? Actions sort of trump words. So how are we showing up? Enough of that. Mindset. Everyone get a feeling for mindset, how we're going to show up. You want to be thinking about mindset. Now I want to talk about conversations, and I want to check the time.
You're doing great. You've got plenty of time, I think.
Oh, you know what it is? I do, but I'm East Coast, and I almost freaked out there. I was like, I was looking. I've only got 20 minutes. So coaching conversations. All right. So I have this note. I like to think of coaching conversations as having an arc, and I like the metaphor, a chess metaphor of opening moves, middle game, and end game. It's just, it helps me. In fact, if I go back here and show you this slide, remember I was talking about, I use this stance slide. This slide, I use this for planning, getting my brain right for how am I going to enter a coaching session with a client. I think in terms of what stance will I enter in opening moves. Does that resonate with everyone? And very often it's coaching stance or professional coaching. That's a really nice way to enter an arc or a coaching conversation because of the open Q&A part, the powerful questions part. But then I think of, you know what? I think the client may, in service to what I believe the agenda is, I may need to then flip into teacher. And I'm like, I wonder what that'll look like. And I'm like, just note to self, I may go to mentor or teacher. And what would I be teaching? And I try to get my little game plan. It's not too firm because I don't want to be locked into my plan, but I want to have a pre-arc. It really helps me sort of navigate effectively with my client. I'll make adjustments. I'll actually make adjustments based on the model and the stances here. And I'll talk about middle game. And then I remind myself, I have to land it. What's the end game going to look like? How am I going to land this thing? So I'll use those stances to guide my arc planning. Literally, I'll spend 5 minutes on this. No more than 5 or 10 minutes. It's not much more than that, but I think of it as preparation. This is pre-agenda with the client. This is me getting myself cleaned up and ready to coach and to adjust and to think about structure and alignment. And I find that the outcomes are better and I'm better prepared. So that's what I'm talking about here. Ask permission, brainstorming, options, exploration, dancing with the client. What dance? I might use a waltz, then I'm going to use a foxtrot, then I might go back to the waltz and think about that. One of the things that really sort of confuse me still to this day. I don't know if there's a book on Amazon about powerful questions. So there's a book on Amazon that contains 100,000, I may be exaggerating slightly, but 100,000 powerful questions, a lot. It's a book dedicated to powerful questions. And I always felt like there were almost too many powerful questions. They're good questions, but for me, my brain, I can't remember everything. And and what happens in my coaching arc, when I'm picking up one of 1,000 things, I end up not being smooth and not being sort of I'm almost driving for the questions instead of sensing and responding to the client, if that makes sense to everyone. So I'm trying to pick the perfect question rather than dancing with the client. So what I've found is this wonderful set of 7 coaching questions that really helps me land. It's the simplicity of it that I really find powerful. So you could add whatever you want, but for me, this is a nice baseline set for anyone who's coaching, and the simplicity really helps it. So what's on your mind? Wonderful question. Opening moves, everyone with me? Nice opening moves oriented question. And what else? I think of this as the spiraling, getting into some details, right? Let's explore, let's go a little bit deeper. And what else? You can use it in opening moves. You can use it in middle game. You can use it in end game. What else? What else are you going to do? And what else? Beautiful question. What's the real challenge for you here? Another one of these 5 why questions where we can go a little bit deeper. What's the real challenge for you? Really? Or is there another challenge? Is there something else behind that? That's I'm curious about that. So a wonderful question. Probably not opening. It could be opening moves and then middle game. Probably not so much end game. What do you want? What do you want to achieve in this coaching? What's your agenda? What would the outcome look like in this coaching arc? What would a success? What would a slam dunk look like? So what do you want? Opening moves, middle game, and end game, probably skewed towards the front. How can I help? To me, this is the partnership question, but not over partnership. Everyone, right? Who owns the outcomes? The client owns the outcomes, right? We're holding the client with respect, but at the same time, and this may be wrong of me, but I like to actually partner. I have a mindset that says, I'd love to go shoulder to shoulder. One of the things that we were doing when I was going through ORSC is there's this spatial notion. I even do it sometimes when I'm on Zoom. People wonder, like, am I scratching an itch or something? But I'm like going like this, and I want to go shoulder to shoulder with a client because we can partner. Like, let's put the problem out in front of us. And can we work? Can we look at it together? And that's sort of how can I help? Wonderful question. Probably more middle game, I think, probably predominantly in the middle game. Number 6, from an agile point of view, and this would be good for Sid. Remember, Sid has a whip limit problem. So if you're so this would be wonderful for Sid, is if you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? And I love that. I love that prioritization question. I think this is not an agile coaching book, but it's really relevant in our space, that question. And then what was most useful to you? Probably more at the end game, a nice closing. What was useful to you in the close in my coaching? What was least useful to you? How could I improve? So part of closing isn't just the objectives. It's not just what is the client doing, getting data about how can I improve? Did I serve you? Here's a wonderful closing question. How could I have better served you in this coaching conversation? And then listen deeply, not just to the words, but to the emotional feel. So I'm giving you a set of 7 questions that you might find useful. In our planning, you might pick 1 or 2 and say, this scenario is ripe for this question, or this scenario is ripe for that question. One of the things I've found is that folks focus on powerful questions, but there's a complement. If you're asking any questions as a coach, you have to do what? Let's see, I'm going to pick on someone. Who can I pick on? Kamal, I ask questions. I need to do something to complement. What is it? Listen. I'm giving you the answer. Listen, Kamal, you with me? Listen. And there's something even before the listening. For Bob Galen, shut up and listen. Like, shut up and listen deeply, and be patient. Maybe let silence do its job, and just listen. So I wanted to include some listening steps from the Center of Creative Leadership, just a very simple little package of steps. Be attentive, ask open-ended questions, ask probing questions, clarify. I don't think I amplify clarification enough. And don't clarify in your words, clarify in the client's terms. Everyone understand what I'm saying? One of the mistakes I made is I convert things to Bob Galenese, and I'm a dinosaur. I mean, I have my TV shows that I watch were like, sort of in the 50s or in the 60s, in the 70s. So if I do conversions and paraphrase, it very rarely resonates. The folks, my clients are like, what the hell are you talking about? Or they might, even worse, they might nod their head and say, yeah, you got it right. So paraphrase in the language of the client. Be tuned and reflect, and then some summarization. And you can apply some of these to middle game and end game. So enough of that. Everyone shake it. Everyone take a deep breath. Everyone take a deep breath and shake a little bit. Shake it off. Shake it off. So what were the wheel stances? Everyone with me? Wheel stances. Dancing, the metaphor. Dance with the client. What does the client need? What does the scenario need? How might I enter? But what might I have in my back pocket in order? So mindset, respect, mindfulness, presence, biases, etc. So think about preparing your mindset. Then think about the arc. Everyone, opening moves, middle game, end game, a light set of powerful-ish questions. So now what I want to do is I want to get everyone just at your desktop. So we can run this workshop in 2 modes. We could run it in role play mode in breakout rooms, and that would be a wonderful thing to do, but we're not going to do that because it scares the bejeepers out of everyone, right? So we're not going to scare anyone. So we're not going to do that. So don't run for the exits. What we're going to do is I'm going to give you a scenario, and I want you to take a few minutes, and I want you to think, I am the coach, and I am in this role. And how am I going to show up? What am I going to do? What tools? What stances am I going to use? What is key mindset points? What do I need to be wary of? There might even be in these conversations or these scenarios, there might be multiple coaching conversations. Does that resonate with everyone? It might not just be one-on-one. It might be, I need to talk to the team. and coach the team, and I might want to coach the leader, and this is the arc for the team, and this might be the arc for the leader, and this is how I would manage that, or not. But I want you to think of coaching strategy and how would you approach this scenario. And then what we're going to do is, after a few minutes of you taking notes, I'm going to just debrief and see what people came up with. There's no right or wrong approach. There is no right or wrong. There's nothing. We're serving the client, but I want to see. I always get a wide variety, and I always learn something in these. So let me give you the first one, and we'll get you. So this is the first one. You're an agile coach, so this is you, who is trying to spearhead an agile transformation. Whether you do this, so if you're a Scrum Master, I've promoted you. If you're an enterprise coach, it doesn't get into the role, just at your desk. You're spearheading an agile transformation. You continuously try to make the methods versus mindset point, but it doesn't land very well. The COO of the organization, who supports the initiative, primary stakeholder, asks you to help them, 1, explain what agile is, 2, what it isn't, and 3, what is the value and impact proposition. What to do, what conversations to have. Conversations. So coaching opportunity, coaching conversation opportunity. Take a little time, jot down some notes. Wheel, stances, mindset, arcs. Oh, one thing, what stance would be the best stance? You know what would be interesting, everyone? What would be the worst stance to use in this scenario? What would be the anti-stance? And look at the difference between those. Take another minute or so, and what I'll do is I'll start looking for any commentary. The first person that breaks the ice is usually the hardest, so and then we'll see where it goes. Anyone have an idea of how you would approach this? Evanel?
Yes, I think perhaps using the transforming stance.
Okay, give me a little more.
So since we're moving into an agile transformation, I would probably want to, provide them, the value of, what agile can provide within the organization, and see exactly how the organization is already, working. I will put my feet in the shoes of the organization currently, and understand what are the pitfalls that we're already going through with our current methodologies, and see exactly where Agile can come into play to help foster a better environment for deliveries.
I love that. What would the entry conversation look like? Like
Yeah,
if you just go ahead.
I would probably want to ask some probing questions, or ask what the company would like to achieve with its current methodologies. What are the achievements they're aiming for? And from there, from that particular answer, I can already ask more questions to guide them towards seeing that Agile will be a very good option. So by asking some open-ended questions, for example, if I ask them what they really want to achieve, and they tell me they want to be able to deliver process deliveries at a faster rate and more successfully, perhaps they say they're using waterfall approach. I would tell them, well, I will provide them the value of Agile, that Agile is the perfect tool to use in that particular circumstance, given that Agile is specifically made for teams that want to deliver, value at a very fast rate and successfully at each time. So from there, I can already see that they can already see how Agile could be a good tool for them, and it will provide some interest into actually understanding what Agile is.
I love that. Abhinav, I'm going to look for someone else. I want to give you a bit of feedback. I would be giving them options. So some of your language, and this is a scenario, it was perfect what you were describing. I might give them some options of places where Agile works and from a transformation and where it doesn't, or some of my experience. And instead of trying to give them a solution, almost give them pro and con options or something like that. And part of my stance might be a teaching stance, if that makes sense. So somewhere in there, I might jump up on my soapbox, maybe not in the first conversation, because you did that wonderful pivot. You were talking about asking clarifying questions. That was wonderful. But maybe follow on, do something like that. So instead of telling, maybe sort of providing some options and lightweight guidance as opposed to heavier weight guidance. So that's one, everyone. And there's nothing right or wrong. I want to hear another one. Kamal.
Hey, Bob, Sam here from
Sam.
Melbourne. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sorry,
Sam, go.
muted.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Sam.
totally. I totally agree with you with the teaching stance versus coaching, and I think the three questions there nearly imply it's been forced upon them. You shall do Agile. So I'd tease out of them why, and then maybe lightweight teaching and see which way they want to go in terms of a framework. So I totally agree with you there.
Thanks, Sam. One point I want to make with everyone, sometimes folks make the mistake, they look at a coaching, and this is my arc. Sometimes people want to have a coaching conversation that has a miraculous ending. Everyone with me? Like there's one arc, right? I begin, I middle, and it's done. I never will coach them again, and I'll go on and I'll solve world hunger over here, and then I'll bring world peace. My experience is that doesn't happen. Normally I think of a bouncing ball of coaching conversations. Everyone with me? It's going to follow and there might follow. So the first one might be fact finding or information gathering. And then I'm setting the stage for better understanding of the client's agenda, and then might do another one and might do another one. So don't get stuck thinking that the arcs are one-time events. There's usually a flow, and think of them that way. Kamal, I cut you off. Go ahead. What do you have?
Yeah, sorry, I had trouble finding the unmute button. So yeah, I think what I would ask the COO, like it's them asking what Agile is and what it isn't, it's one of those things where it points to me as like, well, what did you think it would be, and what did you think? What I think Craig made a point in the chat of saying, what does success look like to you? Because one of the things I've learned is like what C-suite executives think about what they think of look as success versus those that are in the trenches and actually doing the work. Success looks different for them. So I'd be really curious before I explain Agile, and what it is and what it can be potentially for his organization, his or her organization. I'd be curious to know, what did they hear about Agile and what did they think they would happen to their organization to see that transformation, and what would it change and what kind of advantages would they get out of it? I'm curious to see what the picture was in their mind. They had this picture of what Agile will do for their organization. And to me, I wanted to get some clarity on what that picture looked like. I don't want to explain Agile to them because it could be any number of things, particularly to the industry and the organization. So I would like to know, what do they envision? What does success look like to them? So I like that question, because success in how its appearance versus those that are in leadership versus those that are in the trenches are entirely different things. And when you try to get them to meet in the middle, or at least come into the same room, you realize that they never had the same picture to begin.
Yep. I love the metaphor of a picture, Kamal. I just want to react to that. If I can get them almost even to draw, like what would the end game look like for the transformation? And even get dreamy. What does an audacious end look like to really understand and have them paint that? One thing I want to raise up to everyone is we have the opportunity to talk to the COO, but we also have the opportunity to maybe to talk to a leadership team or to coach a leadership team, a small leadership team, and address alignment to see what if there's alignment between end games from each one of them. So there's a choice. I might come out with the COO, but if I discover that it's a common theme, it might open up an opportunity for a group-based coaching event. And keep that in the back of your mind. I see that Logan, this is resonating. So let's take a few hands, and then I'd like to get to another scenario and just practice. But I love what's happening here. And again, please, there's no right or wrong. It's all beautiful learning. Logan, what do you got? Logan, you're on there you go.
Okay, I am a little bit out of my depth, but I'm gonna give this a try. So what I would do is I would really take a lot of notes and have one-on-one with a lot of the key players and the people that are involved in the team. And I would look at the values and also from the, if they're using Scrum, I would look at Scrum and also the Agile Manifesto and see where they're coming short. And that's where I'm going to focus the conversation around. So let's say if they still love documentation, well, maybe I'll frame, ask question, why do you guys like to do documentation a lot versus collaborating with each other? So that's my approach. That's it.
I love that. The stance that popped into my head, Logan, was facilitation, and facilitation like alignment or principle alignment or something. Now, the one caution I have in reaction is it, and it sounded almost, why are you doing documentation? It's like documentation is bad. I would be careful to scrub out any judgment. Like I have bias against waterfall. I don't know if I shared with everyone, but I'm 35 years old. So look what waterfall has done to me. Right, waterfall has destroyed me. So I have some biases. So I have to be careful about how I phrase that. Not that you did it. So so I wouldn't even lead with, do you like documentation or not? I would just sort of ask those open-ended questions and see what emerges from the crowd, from the individuals or from the crowd. You know what, everyone? I'm going to defer facilitation to my partners, Sid and Aaron and Lonnie, because I'm losing sight of the hands. So Sid, Sid, could you help me? You pick a few
I think we
people.
have Craig next who had his hand up.
Thank you, Sid.
Yeah.
Craig, what do you got?
Okay, that's me. Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks. I was the one who made the remark, what does success look like? So before I start an engagement like this, I do my own homework and I look at the company, where it is, where's the organization in the market, and is it, so we want to know is the organization facing imminent threat of extinction? Is it maybe in the number one spot, but they're worried they aren't moving fast enough and they might soon lose their leadership position?
Yep.
Or maybe they're embarking on something brand new, like they're introducing a brand new product or coming into a new market. And I'll do that research. But then when I actually meet with people, I listen.
Yep.
And I compare and see if what I hear from them about their worries are match up. How does that match up with my own research that I did in the beginning? So, but in general, a company that's facing imminent threat of extinction, there's going to be a whole different set of approaches, there to, we're number one, but, we just want to make sure we keep moving fast enough so that we stay number one. Whole different, are we burning the boats? Or not?
Yep.
Thanks.
I think Craig here with the COO, I think that's a prudent strategy at the C-level. Right, is doing some of that research. I love the homework aspect. Everyone, I'm not dictating that, but doing a little bit of that background. Craig said something that really resonated with me, and it was listening for the gaps. So when we talk about active listening, I think one thing that folks don't always talk about is what was unsaid. What probably should have been said but was unsaid. So let's say I'm talking to the COO and you're in a and the company is in a dogfight with competitors, but that fear or that uncertainty doesn't come up at all. To me, I might note that. Why is that not coming up? But it wasn't said, Bob. So what is it still? It might, so that context, that dissonance might be something that I want to pay attention to. Sid, who's next?
Well,
Actually, can we?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in because we, this is so great, but we actually have a raffle we want to do before we run out of time. So we'd like to maybe do a raffle. We want to give away a couple of your books that we have here, and I'm gonna.
So am I done? Am I done?
Yes, sir. I think so.
All right, I can be done. No, it's all. So everyone, there's two more scenarios, and I want you to practice on your own. Everyone, and you have the materials. I have a Scrum Master coach to team managers coaching conversation. So it's a different view. And then I have one that's a Scrum Master of a team who is recently, oh wait, I'm sorry. And then there's one that a team member and team member to team member coaching opportunities. So I'd like you to look at those and just sort of do what we did here. And I want to thank everyone, and I am done.
I'm also going to.
No, you're not.
Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
I just said, oh, no, he's not. Bob, you'll never be done. We're going to need you to come back at some point, I think.
Yep. Yeah, I wish we had multiple hours with you. It was so good. All right, so Aaron, how do we want to do this? We want to do a we're going to ask, we're going to think
with the number of people I think we have, I think let's go with the ever popular. I'm choosing a number between 1 and 10,000, and the person closest to that number without going over will be the first winner of Bob's most recent book, Extraordinarily Badass Agile Coaching. By the way, Bob, I'm a big fan of the word badass, just saying. So I think it's great.
Thank you.
Okay. So between 1 and 10,000 without going over. And I see all of the answers coming in there right now. Okay. And I'm going to text that number to, well, Sid, should I just say my number out loud? So has everyone put their number in?
Has everybody put their number in? We're going to close the poll on this one in 3, 2. There's still numbers coming in.
There's still numbers coming in.
1. All right, we're not taking any more.
Done.
Okay. The number is 1135. 1135. So if you came close to that number without going over.
We've got an 1110 from Peter Zimmer.
Looks like Peter Zimmer might be the
and 1111, Aaron.
Even 1111 from Aaron.
Ooh.
Oh, not this Aaron. Oh, Aaron Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The last name. So
1111.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaron Parker, 1111 is the big winner of the first one here.
Cool.
Okay.
Bravo.
Aaron, make certain to connect with me. We already are, but send me your mailing address and I shall send you a copy of Extraordinarily Badass Agile Coaching. Okay. All right. Second one, do we want to do the same model?
Or we're giving it away twice, so you get to do it again.
Right.
Yes.
So Sid, do you want to choose the number this time?
Yes, hang on a second. 1 and 10,000, you said? What was that? Okay.
1
in
in
10,000.
All right. Let me just think for a moment.
Believe it, it's harder to think of numbers than you think.
It actually is. All right, I'm ready. People can enter their numbers.
All right, let her rip.
And they're already coming in.
This is kind of fun. Sorry. I didn't expect the part to be so fun. Okay.
10,000. Oh.
Yeah.
5,
More numbers?
4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, Sid, what was your number?
Okay. I actually went low, y'all. I went 76.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Who's the lowest?
Did anyone go?
Was it Nan 356?
I mean, everybody
I
went.
don't think anyone
Everybody
did
went
that
over.
low.
I think you're gonna have to. I think you're gonna have to
A
go
redo.
against it.
Oh no.
Everybody went over. So we don't want to just pick the lowest number and have them win? The closest?
That's fine too.
I believe it
have a
was
winner.
Nan had 356, I think is the lowest number I see up there.
Okay. Nan, I'm going to put my LinkedIn profile link over in the chat, and please connect with me, and I will get you a copy of the book.
Yes. This was really fun. I was just about to say, Lonnie, you want to pull up our closing thoughts here? All right, y'all, join us next month when we have Nadia. She's going to join us to talk about Sony's servant leadership journey, and it's supposed to be a very exciting presentation. We hope you will come back. I know I saw some of you already signed up earlier in the chat. And thank you so much for coming. Bob, thank you so much. This was so good. This was like a masterclass.
I hope so. I hope so. If I have a final word for everyone, please practice your craft. That's what, please just, and there is no bar, just practice, and you'll get better. That's literally what we were doing tonight. And so please practice.
Yes, and we will post a recording on YouTube. We will share it with all the people who signed up on Meetup and post it on LinkedIn. So there will be a recording later for everybody. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Brand, Aaron,
Thank you.
Sid, Lonnie,
Now, if
thank
you need a place to practice, we have the Agile Coaching Circles. They're free and virtual and at different times around the world. Okay. Anyone can come. You can go any circle you want. They will always be free and virtual, but they are there to help you practice.
That's right. And those are because they literally you just go through the arc and you practice with people. It's practice. It's a great session. So yeah, Aaron, do you want to post a link to those?
That would be helpful.
Highly recommended, everyone. Highly recommended.
Safe
Hold
space.
on, I'm coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, and if you won the book, please connect with us. Make sure we have your contact information so we can send that to you. And Bob, we would love to have you back sometime. So let's talk about that for the future.
We can talk about it. I'd love to come back. And then next time I'll fine tune my ending. So yes, it'll be good.
Maybe we'll do just all scenarios next time.
I would love that.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? That would be fantastic. Yeah.
I would love it. Thanks for having me. Have a good night, everyone.
Ready. Good night.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.